IMSA's point system is complicated, and there are a ton of different championships up for grabs. So what better way to set up the big season finale by going over all of the championship scenarios in IMSA's top class. First, let's go back to my IMSA explained video and just get a refresher on the point system. And these points are awarded to each and every car that finishes the race. The race winner will get 350 points, second place gets 320, third place 300 points, fourth place 280, and fifth place gets 260 points. For every position after that, it decreases in increments of 10 points. So for instance, 6th place is going to get 250, 7th place 240, etc. Qualifying points are 10% of these race points, so that means 35 points for pole, 32 points for second place, 30 points for third place, etc. The overall championship encompasses points from all of the season's races. And then there's the Michelin Endurance Cup. The Michelin Endurance Cup utilizes a different point system, and in these races, points are handed out at various points in the 5 longest races of the season. For Petit Le Mans, points are awarded at the 4-hour mark, the 8-hour mark, as well as race finish. When these points are handed out, the leader at that point in the race will get 5 points, second place will get 4 points, third place will get 3 points, and every other car that's running will pick up 2 points. All of these points are then added up at the end of the season to determine the IMSA Michelin Endurance Cup champion. Now, something that I didn't mention in that video is actually the manufacturer's points battle, which may be slept on by the fans, but it is absolutely not slept on by the manufacturers themselves. It follows the same point system that we know from the WeatherTech Championship, except only the top finisher for each manufacturer gets classified in those rankings. So let's say, for example, the Cadillacs go out in GTP and they finish first, second, and third, with Acura finishing in fourth. Well, since Cadillac finished first, they of course get those 350 first place points. But since Acura were the second place finishing manufacturer, they would get second place points with 320. And so on and so on. So without further ado, let's take a look at these championship battles now. And let's start off with GTP. So we're going to have 12 entries in GTP for Petit Le Mans, a fairly standard grid after we do have the Proton number 5 that's fallen off the grid, of course, but still 12 entries is a healthy number. As always, the maximum number of points that can be handed out are 385. The minimum is 209, meaning that in order for a car to have a mathematical shot at the championship, you have to be within 176 points of the leader. Here, the number 6 Porsche Penske Motorsports 963 leads with 2,582 points. They have a 131 point advantage over the sister number 7 Porsche and a 145 point advantage over the number 24 Team RLL BMW. So regardless of what the 7 and the 24 do in the race, if the 6 finishes 7th place or better in the race, they will clinch the championship no matter what. So, you know, if the 7 goes on to get pole and win the race, and we see the 6 finish in, 8th, and don't qualify well, they qualify way down, then that could mean that the championship lead would flip to the 7 in that case. In order for the 24 to jump up and take the championship, of course, I'm assuming a pole and a race win at this point, basically going to have to do that if they want to have a chance. But in that situation, the number 6 would have to finish 8th place or worse in order for BMW to snag that championship. The Michelin Endurance Cup is definitely much more on the table here, with points being handed out at the 4-hour mark, 8-hour mark, and at race finish. We broke down some of those championship points, and I gave you that refresher a moment ago. It's a very close championship fight here, with the number 7 leading the number 60 Meyershank Racing Acura by 3 points. The 31 and the number 6 are also still in the hunt here, 6 and 7 points behind, but in order for them to grab the win, they're probably going to have to sweep the win across, all 3 of those stages that points are handed out. The most fun GTP championship battle, though, is on the manufacturer side of things, and this is a really, really big one for these manufacturers. Here, Porsche leads with 2,804 points. It's a 7-point gap to Acura, so it really doesn't matter what happens in qualifying. I guess in theory it could. It's not really going to matter whoever finishes ahead of who in the race, whether that's Acura or Porsche, they are going to be your manufacturer's champions for 2025. Today's video is sponsored by P1 Web Development. Now, over the past couple of years, you've heard me talk about the P1 Web Development owner, Kelly, and the passion that he has for racing. But now he and P1 are going the extra mile to help racers improve their online presence and get noticed. Enter the P1 sponsorship program. Whether you're a driver competing in the WeatherTech Championship, the MX5 Cup, or heck, the 24 Hours of Lemons, then P1 can help you get noticed online. In exchange for a P1 Web Development decal on your car, P1 will build you the same professional, fully custom website as their paying clients. Except it's all free to start. All that you have to pay for is the monthly hosting fee. This isn't just a cookie cutter template either, and not just a demo site. It's a real live custom site that you'll be proud to show off to any prospective sponsors or fans. To learn more, you can head to p1webdevelopment.com and click on the sponsorship tab at the top of the page, or you can click the first link in the description. A huge thanks to Kelly and P1 Web Development for supporting the show over the years. LMP2 also sees some interesting championship fights here. Again, we have 12 entries that are on the LMP2 grid here, so that does mean there's a potential swing of 176 points in this race. The 99 AO Racing leads with 1,972 points, and that's 85 points ahead of the number 22 United Autosport entry, who's the only competitor that has a mathematical shot at winning the championship. So, in order for the 99 to clinch, they need to finish third or better. But also worth noting in this, it's an 85-point gap. That's definitely doable in a race here. So, it's worth mentioning that if the 22 finishes ahead of the 99 on track here, which, you know, they would have to do in order to be able to snag this championship, that means that the 22 would also take the tiebreaker, so it's worth noting heading into the weekend. The Michelin Endurance Cup standings also see a very close battle here. It's a number 43 Inter-Europol entry that leads with 37 points. That's a 5-point edge over the number 22 United and number 11 TDS Racing entries. And then, of course, it's LMP2. It's a Spec Orica class. Orica won the non-existent Manufacturers Championship for this when the entry list got released last year. I think it's pretty safe to say our best battles, though, across the championship arguably are in the GTD Pro class, and here we're going to have 10 entries on the grid. For Petit Le Mans, that sees a potential point swing of 154 points. At the top, though, it is the number 3 Corvette Racing by Pratt Miller Motorsports Corvette that leads with 2,942 points. That's 18 points ahead of the number 81 Dragon Speed Ferrari. Those are the only two that are in mathematical contention for this championship. When we want to talk about clinching scenarios here, you know, pretty well whoever finishes ahead of who is going to have a very good shot at winning this championship. Obviously, if the Corvette finishes ahead of the Ferrari, they will have clinched the championship. However, the number 3 Corvette could do them a big favor here if they're a little bit better than the Ferrari in qualifying. You see, don't forget, we give out qualifying points for these championships as well. So with a gap just 18 points right now, Corvette is really going to try and push to extend that gap to 21 points. What that means, if the 81 Dragon Speed Ferrari finishes second, third, or fourth, then Corvette could finish one position behind them with a 21-point advantage and still clinch the championship. As it is right now with an 18-point swing, if Dragon Speed finishes ahead of Corvette and finishes first, second, third, or fourth, then Dragon Speed would clinch the championship. So yes, a lot going on here in GTD Pro. Just remember, in qualifying, that number 3 is going to be pushing really hard to try and out-qualify the number 81 and try and give themselves a little bit more breathing space heading into the race. In the Michelin Endurance Cup, it's a one-team race at this point. Paul Miller Racing has clinched the Michelin Endurance Cup Championship. It's just a question of, is it going to be the number 1 or the number 48 that's lifting that trophy at the end of the year? The number 1 currently has a 4-point lead over the sister number 48 BMW. And the Manufacturers Championship is very close here as well. There are 4 manufacturers still with a mathematical shot at this. Chevrolet leads with 3,020 points. Ferrari is just 46 points behind. Ford is 62 points back, and BMW is 80 points behind the leading Corvette. GTD is our biggest class on the grid for Petit Le Mans. It will feature 19 entries, meaning it has a very large 253 point swing. But despite that, it does not mean that we have the closest championship fight here. Winward Racing has a commanding 224 point lead. So essentially, no matter what happens in qualifying, if they finish 16th or better in the race, they will clinch the championship. However, if Winward Racing is able to put in a very strong qualifying run, maybe get pole, and we see the number 27 Heart of Racing Aston Martin have a poor qualifying effort, and the gap is over 230 points, then Winward Racing would clinch the GTD Championship before the race even gets underway if that points lead is 230 points or more. The Michelin Endurance Cup Championship, though, on the other hand, is very, very tight here. The number 70 Inception Racing Ferrari leads with 34 points. That is just a 3-point gap over the number 21 AF Corsa Ferrari and the number 27 Heart of Racing Aston Martin. The number 120 Wright Motorsports Porsche finds themselves in 4th, 4 points behind the 70 Inception Ferrari. And there is still something to play for here in the Manufacturers Championship. Mercedes does have a commanding lead here as well with a 114 point advantage over Ferrari, but let's not forget there's only going to be a couple of Mercedes in the field. Winward Racing and now Lone Star Racing are the only 2 Mercedes in GTD, whereas Ferrari has a fairly large stable of cars to be able to put a strong foot forward. So the championship, it's unlikely Ferrari to catch them, but if the Mercedes find some trouble early in the race this weekend, then keep an eye on those Ferraris to maybe snag that Manufacturers Championship. And I think the closest IMSA Championship period is the Bob Aitken Bronze Cup. It is a dead heat right now between the 70 Inception Racing Ferrari and the number 13 AWA Corvette. Whoever finishes in front of the other in this weekend's race has an automatic invite to the 24 Hours of Le Mans next year. You better believe both of those teams are going to be absolutely gunning for that Le Mans invite. I also want to quickly touch on the Michelin Pilot Challenge because there are some great championship fights here as well. In the GS class, we see a potential 310 point swing because there are 27 entries on the grid this weekend. It's a large grid, big point swing, and what it means at the end of the day is the championship favorite, the RS1 Porsche, needs to finish 6th or better to clinch, as right now they have a 100 point advantage over the number 39 Carbon with Peregrine Racing BMW. It's also a razor-tight battle in the Manufacturers Championship here as well. Right now, Porsche leads by just 20 points over BMW, and Ford is only 50 points behind them. So this is an extremely close battle, and Porsche and BMW are tied for wins there, which is the first tiebreaker. But if BMW finishes second, then they would take the tiebreaker with Porsche they would take the tiebreaker with Porsche and also take the championship, unless if Porsche were to win this race. TCR is also incredibly close as well, and we have a 3-way championship battle here. There's 16 entries in this class for Petit Le Mans, or I guess this is the Friday race of the Petit Le Mans weekend, and all 3 of those entries have 2 wins and a 2nd place, but the Montreal Motorsport Group Honda holds the tiebreaker right now based on 3rd place finishes. Like I said, it's very close here at the top. The number 93, that tiebreaker holding number 93, currently leads with 2,550 points. That's just 10 points, or 1 position on track ahead of the number 98 Brian Herta Autosport Hyundai, and the number 76 Brian Herta Autosport Hyundai is 70 points back in 3rd. So for the 93 and the 98, if you finish in the top 4 and you finish ahead of all of your other championship contenders, congratulations, you've won the championship. Now, if they finish outside the top 4, the Montreal Motorsport Group Honda could still finish 1 spot behind the 98 Hyundai and clinch the championship because they do have that tiebreaker. If you're the 76, there's a lot of plausible combinations that you could look at here, especially with the TCR class being 16 entries. But really, from a realistic point of view, you have to look at the 76 winning this race. Maybe you could get away with a second place finish, and you still need to have some luck on your side, some not so great days from the 93 and the 98 if you want to try and walk away from Road Atlanta with a championship. As far as the Manufacturers Championship goes for TCR, it's the only one that's locked up right now. Hyundai has clinched that Manufacturers Championship for, I believe it's a 7th year in a row. There you have it, all of the championship battles now to watch out for at Petit Le Mans. I'll have more videos coming out this week as my voice hopefully clears up to make sure you're all ready to go for race weekend. In the meantime though, it's a good time to go and take a look back at some early season predictions that we had and how those have fared come the end of the year. You can check out that video right here. Huge shout out to all the channel supporters. If you too want to support the show, you can head to patreon.com/offintheesses or click that join button below. Once again though, thanks for tuning in. I hope everyone has a great race weekend and doesn't go off in the S's.